Hi, friends. Welcome to the Full Heart Podcast. My name's Rebecca, and today I am here with Laura. I'm very, very much looking forward to this conversation. Laura is a coach, a keynote speaker, the host of the Gutsy podcast, a very well-performing podcast you should check out. Nearly 2 decades of experience, she helps people break through resistance, clear mental clutter, and take intentional action toward what truly matters to them, and that's why I'm so excited. So thank you for talking to me today, Laura.
Gosh, thanks for having me, Rebecca.
Man, okay, so I love your title of the podcast, the Gutsy podcast. Like everything that you are talking about is really, really around that theme, it seems like.
It is. Gutsy is my mantra. It's my way of life. It's what I teach. It's the center of everything that I filter things through because, there's been so many times in my life where I've had to be gutsy, even if I didn't want to be. And it's changed my life for the better. And I just see so many incredible women settling, dealing with things, just going with the flow and staying silent. And it's like, there's just so much more in them. They've just maybe never had anybody in their world to cheer them on or to help them know what to do next or how to focus, or even just to give them the permission that they don't need, but maybe need to hear or see modeled. So Gutsy, it's about doing it, friend. And that
already I feel like I'm about to cry just with everything that you just said, because you're so right. There's so many women, and I see this too. We're taking care of everybody else. We're taking it one step at a time. We've lost ourselves to the roles of so many other things happening around us.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, we're conditioned from a very young age to do that, to make sure everything and everyone else is happy, to, take it easy and not be too loud and, not to ask for too much and, not to make too much money and just all this too stuff, right? Like, don't be too this. And it's like, the only way we're going to change that narrative is if we combat it, is if we make the bold moves, the gutsy moves, to show not only ourselves, but the other women around us that there's an alternative.
Okay. And that is exactly why I have felt called to do this podcast, is to share other women's stories so that we can document and hear these stories of women changing their lives and doing these big things. And it's been so amazing to hear that. And so I just think it's so perfect that you're coming along to really, I feel like you're naming it in a way that I haven't been able to yet. And this is great.
Hey, listen, it sounds like you are on a journey of trusting yourself and amplifying something that's incredibly important. So kudos to you on that.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. Okay, one thing I'm really curious about, if you don't mind, can you tell us a little bit about little Laura and like where you came from?
Yeah. Well, how much time do we got here, Rebecca? I'm going to keep it real straight with you because it's the only way I know how to do that. My childhood was a shit show at best. So dad left when I was 2, lost the entire side of my paternal family at that point, did not meet up with them or know about them for another 30 years, which is a conversation for maybe later on.
Wow.
And, my mom had a lot of her own trauma that she did not have access to. I don't know the reason. That's not mine to figure out. But for whatever reason, did not process and passed it on. So my childhood was filled with anger and violence and uncertainty. And I learned at a very young age, if I just sit down and I just stay quiet and I don't rock the boat, then I will be safe.
I know that story.
Yeah. I'm sure there's somebody listening right now nodding along, being like, oh yeah, I know that book.
Mm-hmm.
I know that chapter. And it's, we're shaped so profoundly by those first 5 to 7 years of life that we can spend eternity either fighting it, continuing it, or doing something about it.
Isn't that what's so fascinating too? Like, it's literally those first few years of your childhood that you might not even remember, but they're shaping so much of what you're doing today.
Yeah. I can remember one of the biggest things that I learned as a child was that using my voice was not okay. So asking for things was usually met with anger or frustration, speaking my mind completely off the table, having an opinion, not okay. So I learned how to shut up. I learned how to just go with it. And one of the, it sounds like a silly moment, but I can remember through some therapeutic work that I did of my own, I can remember a moment where I learned to just shut it up. We were driving in a car. I was in the back seat and Bon Jovi comes on the radio, right? He's singing, I Will Love You, always, you know, like he's belting it out and I'm feeling it. I don't remember. I think I was like 8-ish.
Okay.
And I don't know, I'm just feeling this song. Obviously at 8, I have no fucking clue what this song means, but
Right.
when you feel music, you feel it. I don't know what else to tell you. So I'm in the back seat and he gets to the chorus and I can remember like throwing my head back and I just start wailing. All right. I'm just belting this song out. And I can remember my mom grabbing the rearview mirror and tilting it down to my face and her saying, Laura, nobody wants to fucking hear that. Shut up. And I can remember a head to toe bodily experience of shame just completely take over me. I felt like I was vulnerable. I felt like I wasn't safe. I felt like I was stupid. I felt like I did something wrong. I felt like I was bothering people. And I swear to you, in that moment, it's like it all came together. And I was like, speaking up is not good. Using my voice is not good. Expressing myself creatively, not good. You know, and we don't consciously process that in the moment.
Right.
But
You're not like
back,
8. Let me take notes.
Right. Let me hold on. Where's my whiteboard? But you know,
But
the body processes that. And
yes.
it holds it and it stores it and it becomes our deeply ingrained belief system. Fast forward, I'm a speaker, by the way. So, you know, there's been quite a few shifts along the way, but I remember that moment so clearly. And I'm like, gosh, I can see how sweet 8-year-old Laura was just terrified, with humiliated is probably the best word. I felt humiliated.
Yeah. I mean, for your mom to say that feels so crushing because it's your mom.
Should be one of the safest places. Yeah. Unfortunately, that was not the story for me. Never has been, never will be. And I've come to terms with that. So, you know, there's a million stories like that, but that just seems to be the one that sticks out the most to me, especially when I'm talking about my voice, because while all that was happening, little Laura was also an explorer. She was a leader of the group. We went on adventures. I can remember we lived in this townhouse neighborhood in Maryland. And it was surrounded by woods, and I would gather up my friends and I'd be like, let's go on adventures in the woods. And we'd come up with stories and we'd have characters and we'd go to certain trees and we would play and we'd be out there for hours. And that's really who little Laura was adventurous and creative and open and a leader and fun to be around and silly and just loved to like do things and be with people. And I was always, honestly, being out there was like my safe place. It's where I was really able to be myself without anyone reprimanding me or telling me that I was wrong or that it was too much. I was just free out in the woods with my friends.
That sounds lovely.
It was. We need to get a little bit more back at that in our life, I do believe. But, you know, so it's complex. It's been a wild journey, but I've learned to reclaim my voice. And that's a big part of my Gutsy journey is speaking my mind, asking for what I want, sharing my opinion, saying no. You know, like it's all of those pieces. Being Gutsy is not always about the big moves. In fact, it's more often than not, it's a profound amount of series of small moves that add up to the bigger change.
Okay, I'm so glad you say that because I do want to unpack that part a little bit. I feel like we often overlook the little tiny moments. But first, I'm so curious because thank you for sharing the story about you as a little kid. And I love that you were able to remember that moment simply because I feel like that probably really helped in your healing journey to go back and hug on that version of you a little bit. And I'm curious how you were able to start reclaiming your voice and your opinions and all of it.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is a great example of why the small moves matter. Because to go from my first business that I ran, that's a whole situation of its own. Wonderful, served me really well in a lot of ways. I very unintentionally built that business on the backbone of my insecurities. Much of that was built on people pleasing and saying yes and overexerting myself and downplaying my finances. And, you know, it was a lot of me hiding my voice. It was a lot of me going with the flow to not get in trouble.
Yes.
See how these things correlate here.
Yes.
It doesn't go away. And fun fact, if you're in business, your inside stuff doesn't go away. It gets amplified.
Amplified. Yes.
Amplified. Right.
I always say that being an entrepreneur is the biggest spiritual experience ever.
I mean, it's a spiritual experience, personal development journey, self-help. I mean, it's a whole package, right? So a lot of the way that I operated in that business was I don't want to upset people. You know, I formed an abandonment wound from childhood as well. I didn't want to do anything that upset the cart, which would mean that people would leave, right? Meaning employees or clients or friends even. And so I just rolled with it, and I did what everybody else wanted and needed. And I completely diluted myself and my life and my finances and my own relationship with my health. It just all kind of went to hell in a handbasket. So one of the ways that I really started to reclaim my voice is like, I've got to start trusting me.
Mm-hmm.
I've got to start believing in me. None of these people can give me the love that I was missing as a child. That's not their job. Whose job it is? It's mine. I have to love myself. I have to trust myself. I have to see and know and honor the parts of myself and trust that if that upsets somebody and they go, that meant they were supposed to. That speaking up to me is not bad, especially when it's rooted in deep intention. You know what I mean? So it was not an overnight flip of the switch. It was not all of a sudden now I'm just, feel super fantastic about using my voice. It was in the little moments of speaking up, of asking for something, of saying no, of sharing an opinion, of pushing back on something. It was all these little micro moments of practicing. And then honestly, my podcast, the Gutsy podcast absolutely aided in me finding my voice and learning who I am and how I communicate and what feels most natural to me, which then in turn, here's the coolest part about being yourself and using your voice, is you attract incredible people that love you for exactly the way that you are.
Oh my gosh. And then isn't that just so good?
So good. It's nurturing, and honestly, that's healing in its own way.
So healing.
To be seen and recognized as yourself and accepted as yourself is incredibly rewarding. And it takes so much less effort. So much less effort.
Yes. Do you still find yourself kind of going back to the people pleasing sometimes, or holding back on something like almost as a reflex, but you probably catch it pretty quickly?
Yeah, the people pleasing, not as much anymore. I mean, to say it's completely gone and I'm perfect at it would be ridiculous. But that one, we just can't. I don't have the time or the energy for it, and that's not what I'm here to do. But speaking up, I still hesitate sometimes, especially like right now we're in a really bizarre time. There's a lot of challenging things happening, and speaking up about that stuff in a public setting and as a business owner is very scary.
Yes.
And what's the right thing to say, and how do you do it? And then you get criticized, and there's a lot of questions and a lot of unknowns. And so I've just had to learn, like, I take a second, especially when it's a touchy subject. I take a second and I check in with myself. Is this coming from a place of being informative or educational, or is this coming from a place of I'm pissed and I want to say something? I'm not saying that's always a bad thing. Sometimes we need that beautiful feminine rage.
Yes.
But, I take a second, I check in with myself. Sometimes I sleep on it. Again, it comes back to the intention. So using my voice has been a practice. And I think that that's true for anything that you're either overcoming or trying for the first time. Is we have to practice it. We have to create that familiarity in our body. For me to speak up like I do now, 15 years ago, would be total fucking shutdown. I mean, systems would be down. I would be locked in my house for 3 days. I would be
rocking in the corner.
Oh my God, my empathy would be like shooting out the windows. I would be terrified that I upset everybody in the planet. You know what I mean? And
Are you reading my diary?
Maybe. But now it's like I'll have a moment of that because I'm human and because my body still knows what that feels like. But now I'm regulated. Now I'm stronger for myself. Now I have different tools to like catch that physical expression that's coming up so that I can shift it in a moment. You know what I mean? And I think that all of these are gutsy moves.
Yeah.
Every single one of them. Have I made big chunky moves? Absolutely. But I'm telling you, that big change that you want or that you're working towards or that you're working on, it only happens through the little moves. Those are the ones that really matter.
They are, and they're the unsexy moves. They're the ones we kind of overlook or don't really think about. I think about running a marathon, right? 26.2 miles. You can't just go out and do that. That starts with...
What do you mean, Rebecca? I was planning on doing that. Never.
I mean, you can, but there will be some interesting consequences. And I would like to hear your story if you do that.
You're probably not going to do it again. That's for damn sure.
Yes, yes. But I always think about the like one step at a time. It's putting your tennis shoes on and taking that first step out the door. Sometimes that's the hardest one, and doing that day after day so that you can get to the race day. And so that's what it feels like when you're talking about these big gutsy moves. It's the morning routine you put in place. The one time you said, actually, I don't want cheese on my hamburger or whatever, like something that seems really simple, but you said it.
Yep. It's advocating for yourself. It's creating consistency. It's showing up whenever you're not seeing results. It's like you said, it's lacing up the shoes. Heck, it's choosing to get off the couch to go get the shoes in the first place.
Yes.
Like we underestimate it. We're impatient with ourselves. We give one another a good bit of grace. I mean, as long as you're in good circles with supportive people anyway, we give ourselves one another grace. But we hold ourselves to a different standard, don't we?
For sure. And that like inner critic, that mean voice. I know when I used to do more coaching and talking to women, and it's always amazing how mean we are to ourselves.
Yep.
It's horrible. I'm like, I would never say that to you. I more than once I look at my friend like, don't talk to my friend that way. Like, that's rude. And I used to coach at a junior high as well. And when I would hear girls, because I would be in the gym all day. And so like they would have to change clothes or whatever. And 7th grade girls like demeaning their body and talking bad about themselves. And I'm like, okay, you look in the mirror and you say 3 nice things about yourself. And they were horrified. But I'm like, no, we're not doing this. It's just crazy. Okay. But you did make a big gutsy move in 2023 when you switched your business. Did that start with little moves? Like tell me about how that happened.
Yeah. So I've been a business owner now collectively for 18 years. I spent the first 16 years owning a branding agency. So we did graphic design and web design and marketing and all kinds of great stuff for small business owners. And, I tell you, I built that business off the backbone of my insecurities. I'm not joking, but it also taught me so many things. I learned so much about myself. I grew so much through that process. And honestly, I achieved everything that I wanted to and then some. Mm-hmm. And COVID brought its own natural mess, I'll say, to that business. And, I ended up back by myself. I had a team and a pretty fancy office and all the great things, but gosh, I was miserable. I was so miserable. I was depleted. I was tired. My health had absolutely tanked. I developed Graves' disease in my thyroid. I developed PCOS. Like my body was screaming at me. I gained 40 pounds. Like everything was just bad. We had foreclosure letters for our house sitting on my desk. I had 6 months worth of my own paychecks that I hadn't cashed. It was just not good. People pleasing to the max here, friends.
Okay.
To stay quiet and to stay safe and to make sure that everything and everyone else had what they need. I just forgot that I needed stuff too. So
yeah, you don't need things.
Oh no, it's like we're just supposed to keep going.
Yeah.
So COVID happened to make really big shifts very, very quickly, reabsorbed back all the roles in my business. And for the next couple of years, I started to rebuild. I rebuilt in a different way. I rebuilt my team in a different way. I got it back to a really healthy place. And then my intuition is always like, hey, I got something. You want to talk about this? And I'm like, I don't really want to talk about this, but you're going to make me. So where are we going with this? I at that point, the Gutsy podcast was already a thing. I was already speaking at events, but not getting paid. So I was already getting a taste of what was coming. I just didn't know that eventually that would become my whole thing. And I can remember a women's group asking me to speak. Normally I'm like, all in, let's do it. Let's go. And she said, can you speak about branding? And I was like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to be known for speaking about branding. I don't want to teach people about branding. And that was my first cue that I was like, what are we doing here? The tides are changing, Rebecca.
Yeah.
What's happening here? And it made me start to just pull up out of the trench a little bit and just observe. I think one of the most underrated things that you can do is just get curious and observe things before you make decisions, before you go running into stuff, before you get pissed off at something. Like, let's just come up out of it. Let's observe it. Let's get curious about what's happening. And then we can move from there. So a couple months went by. Our biggest client, their contract was ending. And again, I just had this feeling. I'm like, I don't want to replace them.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, that's a little stingy. That's, kind of how I pay my bills and stuff. That's kind of important. And there was just one thing after the other, right? Where I was just like, I don't want to put graphics up on social media. I don't want to promote anything. I don't want to create any offers. I don't want to reach out to people. And I'm just noticing all these things and I'm honoring it.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the biggest, smallest Gutsy moves that I've made is honoring what I'm feeling instead of forcing myself to do what I don't want to do.
Okay, wait. I feel like that sentence right there needs to be said again. Because how many times have you been told growing up, I don't care if you don't want to do it. This is what needs to happen. You just need to get over it. Like there's so many times that we were told to override our intuition for the sake of homework or whatever is happening. So how hard was it at first to really listen, like, and to honor that? Or were you at a point at that time where it's like, oh, this is just what's happening?
No, it was absolutely hard in the beginning because I'm like, this is going against everything that I've built for the last 2 decades.
Yeah.
At that point, the business is 16 years old. Prior to that, I had a job in graphic design. And then prior to that, I had 4 years of school for graphic design. I've spent 20 plus years in that industry. And now all of a sudden, I don't want to talk about it. What are you doing, Laura? Now all of a sudden, you don't want to call new clients. You don't want to take on new work. When you get a phone call in about new work, your body sinks. When you get an inquiry on your website, you're like, I'll deal with that tomorrow. Listen, we can't ignore the signs that our body is giving us. This is what comes down to self-trust. And so those hesitant moments, those little micro moments where I'm like, I really physically, mentally, spiritually, all of me don't want to do this. What if I trust that? What if I act on that instead of forcing myself to do it? Because obviously something is unraveling here. This is not happening for no reason. And so that's what I started doing. I just started making decisions. I'm like, okay, I'm not going to promote. Okay, I'm not going to replace this client. And I'm like, this is where it gets really kind of like, okay, hold on. Like, where are the handles in the manual? Because I'm letting go of a lot of things, but I'm not seeing where we're going.
Yeah. And that's the terrifying part that I think a lot of people get stuck on.
Yeah. Well, in those moments, I have to always come back to what's the alternative? Go back? Clearly, I'm miserable. Clearly, I'm not feeling good. Clearly, I'm uninspired. Do I want to go back to that because it's safe and familiar? Or do I want to keep leaning in and see where this is going to go? If I trust myself, I trust in all of the divine power that's going to help me facilitate whatever is next. I got to get my hands off the wheel because clearly I'm not driving right now.
Right.
My only job is to listen, is to trust and to follow action with it. So I had a meltdown, like snot, yelling, screaming, crying meltdown. I call my husband and I'm like, you gotta get here. I was in my office at this time in a building, by the way, that we bought, and we ended up selling through all of this as well. I'm like, you got to get here because something's happening. And he comes in and I can remember him walking in the door and I let out a wail of a sound from my body that I've never heard before. And I just screamed, I don't want this business anymore. It was the first time I ever admitted that. And it was like a giant exhale and also terrifying at the same time. But what was more powerful to me was that it was a giant exhale.
Yes.
That my body was like, there you go. Now we're cooking with bacon.
Yes. Now we can get going where we need to go.
Now we can keep going. And so that was a gutsy move because I claimed something. I decided something. I owned something. That's a move. A decision is a gutsy move. Mm-hmm. When we have decision, we can get clarity. When we have clarity, we know which direction to move in. When we know which direction to move in, we can build momentum. You know what I mean? So after that, I was like, okay, what do I want to do? How do I want to do this? Right. But before admitting what I wanted to do, I didn't know what to do. I don't know where to put my time and my energy because I've not yet decided what I'm going to do.
And that's exactly what I was just wondering as you were talking about this, because I feel like for me, there's been a lot, and I've heard a lot of other people too, just, I don't know what I want. I don't know. And I would hate it when people would be like, well, yeah, you do. No, I literally have no idea right now.
Okay, thanks for noticing, but I don't.
Yeah. Like, stop acting like whatever. I do not know. And so that it's such a weird time. So then I'm like, but how do you start to know? For anybody who relates to that, like how do you start to know? I feel like it's moments like this.
Yeah, it's recognizing moments like this. An easy thing if you don't know what you want is to identify what you don't want. Mm-hmm. That usually comes in a lot harder and faster than choosing what we want, because either the path isn't clear yet or because we're not yet ready to admit it. There's a whole thing with that. But if we know what we don't want, right? Like I knew I didn't want to design anymore. Yeah. I didn't want to market. I didn't want to replace the clients. Like I didn't want to do these things. So all of these micro like decisions along the way is like, okay, I'm seeing what I don't want, which is like clearing the clutter, moving the smoke out of the way so I can start to see what I actually do want. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the most important questions that I've ever asked myself. And I asked myself this question in COVID when all that shit hit the fan. I was like, what does Laura actually want? I hadn't asked myself that question in probably a decade.
Maybe even, yeah. Like, did you ever get to?
Yeah. Did I ever? And, in that moment, it was, Laura wants to speak. I want to coach people. I want to help people do the things that they really want to do. I want to grow this podcast. And that night I registered lauraora.com. This was a few years before now this moment that I'm telling you about today, which was that breakdown moment of, gosh, okay, I'm realizing what I don't want. Another thing that you can lean into as well, if it's helpful, is what is the feeling that you want? Mm-hmm. Like, is there a feeling that you're craving? Like one of the feelings that I was craving was just white space. Like I just want white space in my life. I feel like I'm cranking out stuff. I'm working so much because design is a very manual heavy project. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't just, AI wasn't a thing back then. I'm not saying that I would have used it, but like I can't just put it in a prompt and there's a whole fucking branding campaign. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like it took manual labor to get it done. I was back-to-back meetings and I'm doing all this stuff and I have all these roles and responsibilities. It was just like, this is not it. What do I want? I want white space. I want my health back. I want freedom and flexibility. So if you don't know what the thing is that you want, focus on the feeling. Because if you know the feeling that you want, then you can start making decisions that support that instead of going against it. Big shift there. Okay. And very simple to do. So I decided I'm going to sell this thing. I gotta go. Because at that point, like I said, lauraora.com was already up. I was experimenting with stuff. Nothing was really sticking. I was getting all like boo-hooey about nobody wants to pay me to speak. And I'm giving it like 8% of my time.
You're like, I haven't talked to anybody or left my house, but
no one knows that I'm doing this, but they're not hiring me. Like I'm like, okay, Laura, we need to get serious here. It was really, truly a moment of like a true pivot. Like shit or get off the pot, do the thing or don't. We're at that stage. And I'm like, I gotta keep trusting this. If I look back, my entire career has built me for this.
Yeah.
My entire career, from talking to clients and getting to understand them, and not just working on branding, but working with them on their mindset and the stuff that happens in the entrepreneurial mind, to interviewing entrepreneurs, to launching a podcast, to speaking at Chamber of Commerce. The seeds have been planted all along. It's just time to go all in.
Yes.
So July of 2023, I decided I was going to sell. By that December, it was sold. So it was the right place, the right time, the right situation, the right buyer. I mean, it was just divine timing. And then 2 months later, we ended up selling that commercial building where my office was, because we were going to build that out to be like an entrepreneurial hub and an event space and do all this stuff. I'm like, I don't want that shit either. It's taking me away from what I want to do. It's going to be another variation of the branding agency.
Right.
I don't want this. So I sold everything that didn't align, and I went all in on speaking and coaching, and that's what I've been doing full time for 2 years now.
That is amazing. I just relate to so much of your story, like so much of your story. So I'm just like blown away talking to you. Because the little moments of trusting and just knowing like, hey, this doesn't make sense, but you know what? I'm not explaining myself anymore. This is just what's happening, and the universe is on board. It's going to make it happen. It's just, I don't know. It's so wild thinking about all the changes that must have happened. And I feel like it had to have been huge to have your husband as well. Like, it sounds like he was pretty supportive of really everything.
Yeah. He's definitely my number one fan. He's my best friend. We're closer together now than we ever have been. We've been together for 26 years. So
Wow.
when I get into, I'm a long game person. Like, I'm in it. Yeah, he was so supportive, and he's never questioned what I'm doing. The only question really he's ever asked me is, what do you need?
Wow.
So when I said, I don't want this business anymore, he said, okay, what do we need to do? When I told him I didn't want the building, that one stung a little bit more because we were doing that one together. We were, he has a background in drafting and design, and he was heavily involved in the architecture of the layout. And, we were co-creating that together. So that one, we had to sit in the sting for a little bit together, and he realized, like, yeah, I don't want to do that either. We love the idea of the space, not the idea of managing it.
Yeah.
And one of the things I learned through this whole process is I don't like being a boss. I don't like employees. I just don't. It's just not my personality. I just don't enjoy it. I felt like I ended up being more of that than doing the thing that I really wanted to do. And so I just had to learn that that's not what I wanted to do. And then I looked at the building, and I'm like, we're going to have employees.
Yes.
We're going to have to manage people. Otherwise we're always going to be managing the building. And we just started like taking the emotion out for a second and looking at things black and white for what they were. And it just started to stack up and show us that, hey, this is not really what we want to do. So, he came to terms with it as well. And we made that decision together and sold it together. And yeah, he's pretty badass. Kind of a big fan of him.
That is amazing. Okay. Hearing stories of awesome husbands like this, like, heals a part of me. Did not get that yet, but hearing the stories makes me realize it's possible for anybody else out there.
Absolutely, it is. Absolutely. We've certainly gone through our own challenges. Being together for 26 years, we were 14 and 16 when we got together. So we've gone through some bumps, we've fallen down a lot of alleys, but it absolutely is possible, and especially when you keep showing up for yourself, and you keep showing up for each other. 10,000% possible.
Which I think is just beautiful. And I'm glad you pointed that out too, because one thing I really like to be conscious of is to ask people about the support they have in their lives, the relationships that support them specifically, and any other kind of systems they have in place. As for anybody who's an eldest daughter like me and tries to do everything by themselves without talking to anybody or asking for help ever, so that you don't bother anybody, it's good to remember that that's just not viable.
Yeah. Fellow eldest daughter here, surprise.
Yeah, it's funny. Most of the women I talk to are either eldest or only. And I'm like, here we are. This is...
You can't make it up. It just is.
Yes. So I'm glad for that reminder, and I love that story. So I'm also curious, how did you get your first paid speaking gig? And how did it feel?
Gosh, my first paid speaking gig came seemingly out of nowhere, very easily, which is kind of cool. I spoke at a women's conference locally a few years prior. It felt like a mess. Rebecca, I was waiting as people were walking in the door. I was wearing these fantastic glitter booties. Okay. Like,
sounds awesome. I love it.
Oh my gosh, they're awesome. They're like pointy toe. They're like full glitter. They're all gold. They're stunning. Okay. As people are walking in, I'm kind of like rolling the heel, right? Just like moving my shoe around. I'm just kind of antsy and excited. People are coming in, and I feel a pop.
No.
And I was like, shit, I just broke the heel. So I'd put too much pressure on the side of it, and the heel popped, and I was like, oh, I'll just put it back in, right? No, that's wrong. I broke it. So people are walking in, and I'm standing to speak, and I've got one broke heel, and I'm like, I don't know what to do about this. And I took a second. Okay, and this is that pause coming into play again. I took a second. I was like, what am I going to do? I'm either going to be humiliated by this, or I'm going to turn this into part of the process. So I took off my shoes. I put them on the stool in front of the audience, and I folded them into my story. I made a joke about it. I talked about like pivoting. I talked about being gutsy. I talked about being like an actual human being that people can relate to. And the women thought it was hilarious because, like, yeah, we've all been there, right?
Yes.
It's all been a situation, but we hide behind it because, like, we have to be perfect, or we have to put on a front, or we have to, appear like we have our entire life together. Who does, by the way, who does?
Nobody. It's
So
ridiculous.
anyway, I give that speech. It's a free speech. I went about my life. I didn't really think much more about it. Like a year and a half later, I get an email from one of the gals that was in that audience where she was like, it was so memorable. I loved what happened with your shoe. My company is looking for a speaker for our women's conference. Are you available to speak? And we have a budget. And I was like, my God. Oh my God. Yes. So that's where I got my first paid speaking gig. It was a snowball in the right direction from what was going to be a shitty experience that I turned into a great experience, that someone kept me in mind when there was an opportunity, and it felt like $1 million, because to bring this full circle, I was just asked to speak. I was just paid to use my voice. The thing that I grew up thinking that I did not have access or autonomy over. That's pretty awesome.
That is so beautiful. And that is one aspect that I really relate to you as well, because I keep feeling called to speak and use my voice more. And my biggest thing is like, I just feel like I've been quiet for so much of my life because I didn't feel safe using my voice. So I love that you were able to just turn this seeming disaster into something hilarious and fun, because you're right, like that's just part of life. This is what I love about working with women, honestly, is like we've all kind of been messy, and when you embrace that and put it up front, like, yes, like here's what happened, but here, let's keep moving, then it just makes you more relatable and memorable.
And that's what people want.
Like, yes.
Somewhere along the way, there was this creation of the expectation of things being perfectly curated, and, it's everything matches and everything's just right and everything's, just like crystal clean, right? And it's like, I think that worked for a while because it was fresh and clean and inspiring, but then it got taken completely out of context, as most things do.
Yeah.
And then it created this unrealistic expectation that we have to always show up like an Instagram grid. And
which is insane. Yeah.
It's insane, and it's unattainable. It's just not realistic. So I think that the more that you can be you, the more real you can be, the more relatable that you can be, the more people are like, "Yep, that's what I'm looking for. I don't want perfection. I want to know that I can relate to you. I want to know that we share the same morals and values. I want to know that I'm going to learn something from you, or I'm inspired by you. I want to know that you make me laugh just because you're who you are." You know what I mean? Like, that's, people are craving real.
Yes.
I see it every single day.
100%. I see it too all the time, especially, or I would say even on Instagram, because there's still kind of the desire to curate your home feed. But also, if somebody's is too curated, I don't trust it.
Also, that the pendulum has started to swing the other way.
Yes. But okay, speaking on that though, the whole idea of being perfect and having all your ducks in a row all the time, always, the more I observe the idea of professionalism, which is what I feel like you're describing, like be professional, show up every day with your hair perfect and your outfit perfect and all the things and yada yada. It just feels like such a patriarchal story. It feels like a creation of man and not woman. And when we think about women and our lives day to day, like the cyclical nature, the daily cycles, the monthly cycles, like everything that we go through, and how nature is a cycle, like the idea that you have to show up in the same way every day, all the time in order to be taken seriously makes zero sense to me anymore.
Yeah.
Because it's not natural. It's
not. We're not taught about our cyclical natures, though.
No.
How many of us just learned about that in the last 5 to 6 years?
I know. Thank you to Gen Z for educating me on things.
Appreciate it. Appreciate knowing that, like I have a 28-day cycle. I mean, I knew that part, but like, just this natural ebb and flow of our energy. We're not the same. We don't operate like dudes. We're not supposed to operate like dudes, but the standard is to operate like a dude. And
you look at the standard of everyday life, and that's what it is to me. Like when I think about neurodivergence and like neurotypicality or whatever, it's just thinking about school. Since I used to teach and be in the school district, it's like you just want everybody to be a middle-aged white man. Like that's all you're asking, and that's the dumbest thing, instead of looking at everybody as an individual and really owning that. And it's just been really interesting to observe that.
Yeah. Diversity brings perspective.
Diversity brings life. Like there's no two same of anything.
Yeah.
I get It's the only thing that kept me in the schools for a while because I was actually a substitute teacher, but it's because I could actually talk to kids. So then when
Yeah.
someone's freaking out about a grade or something, I'm like, okay, let's talk this through.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yes, so this is why I'm so glad. I feel like our generation of women are starting to talk more, especially with perimenopause and everything. We're like, wait, what do you mean nobody has talked about this? I am obsessed with the fact that we're all talking about it so much and like really sharing the knowledge. And then looking at the younger women, like you were talking about just now, talking about cycles and everything. I follow a lot of weightlifting accounts as well. And, there's women like, oh, I'm in my luteal phase. So, of course, I'm not lifting as much or whatever. And like talking to the gym bros about it. And like, this is great. This is amazing. Let's bring more of this.
Yeah. And it's the realness
Mm-hmm.
and it's shared experience. How many times have we, whether it's with hormones or body or anything in life, have we felt like I'm the only one? What's wrong with me?
All the time. Yeah.
All the time. That's why having these vulnerable conversations, it's why having the space like you've created here today, it just takes those walls down and says, hey, come on in. We've all got this shit too. And instead of doing it alone, let's have community. You talked about support earlier. Community is everything. And whether community is one other person or 100 other people is irrelevant. But just having the conversations, normalizing what we're all thinking, feeling, and experiencing, sharing valuable, educated resources. Like this is where change happens. It's the root of change.
Absolutely. I totally agree. And it's the main mission of this podcast and why I'm so grateful to women for sharing their stories, because that is where we build community and create change, exactly like you were saying. And I also think it's interesting because I just was thinking about my mom's generation, the baby boomers, and I feel like they were so quiet about stuff. They didn't tell each other about childbirth. They haven't talked about, they don't talk about anything.
Nothing. I can't even imagine what they carry.
Yeah.
I mean, I know they get a bad rap for being salty and closed off. I mean, that's kind of how they were trained. That's what they were taught. But I think about sometimes I'm like, man, if we could just feel from what they're feeling, I can't imagine the weight of what they carry.
Same. I think about that a lot too. Because just even thinking about their childhoods, because they grew up with parents who grew up in the Depression and wars and all kinds of stuff. So it's wild to think about the generational aspects of everything, and I'm grateful to be part of this generation and be part of the awakening of everything. And it's weird because I don't feel like I ever really felt like a girl or like really identified with like the girl woman aspect of life until I started hitting like some perimenopause symptoms. And I just laughed one day. I was like, okay, now that all the hormones are leaving me, now I feel like a woman.
Good times. It's like it's just when you get used to one thing. Now we adapt to the next.
But that's life, right? And that just goes into all the stories that you were just saying too. Like you had your business, you had this 20 years of stuff, and then it's like, oh no, we're done with that. We're moving on to this other thing. And so who knows what will happen in another few years when it's all of a sudden like, oh, guess what? I'm done talking on stage. I'm going to go do this now. Or whatever. I don't know. So just being able to go with the flow of life and to trust your intuition. Trusting the intuition is such a huge part of this.
It is. It's, dare I say, it is one of the most important things, if not the most important thing, because your body is a compass and it is forever guiding you. Your only job is to listen. I call it your soul leaving breadcrumbs for you.
Ooh.
It's like it's giving you these little pieces of information. It might not make sense. It definitely is not going to make sense to other people. You might not know how. It might feel a little overwhelming. It might feel kind of confusing. But if you just stay open, just stay kind of curious, come up out of the trenches every so often, and just focus on making one next step, I promise you things are going to start working in your favor.
Yes. Absolutely. I totally agree. Okay. One thing I like to ask too is tell me your definition of success, like right now. Because we just talked about all the patriarchal stories we've been working our way through. So I want to hear women's definitions of success.
I love it. And I love how you emphasized right now, because I think success, the definition of that changes in the different parts of our lives.
Agreed.
So to me right now, success is, hold on a second. Sometimes tea makes my my throat dry. I don't know if that happens to you, but
Interesting.
yeah, I don't know what that's all about. To me right now in this moment, success feels like downtime. It feels like fun, like laughing again, silliness. It feels like doing meaningful work, and it feels like discovering this new chapter of life. I mean, it just, I say we because my husband and I, we're in such a, like everything is new. Our son is 8. He just turned 18. He's graduating in a couple of months. So we're starting to really recognize the shift of our role as parents. So my husband and I are reconnecting in new ways and having fun again. And I'm in this new business, you know, which I finally feel like I've got my footing with, but I think it's just having white space and downtime and playing and enjoying the shit that I'm doing. That's what success feels like to me.
That feels so juicy and nourishing. I love it.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm a pretty big fan of it too. I've waited a long time to be able to feel this way, and I'm very, very proud of it. I'm proud of myself for making the gutsy moves to get it.
You should be. Yes. Yes. Okay. And I love that you acknowledge that for yourself as well. That's so important. And I don't think that we as women do that enough for ourselves.
Yeah. I mean, let's be honest. This shit didn't fall out of the sky. I'm sorry. I put in a lot of work to feel this good. So I will own every ounce of that. And I will empower other women to find their own version of that too. That's the work that I do.
Yes. Okay. And that's what I love so much. I feel like that's been part of my journey this time too, because I am a brand new empty nester. My youngest is a freshman in college. And I was like, you know what? I worked really hard to be able to raise these children by myself. Yep. I'm taking a year.
Yeah,
that's what I'm doing. So just to have those moments, give yourself the permission to have those moments. Okay, so speaking on what you do for people, tell us more like what kind of offerings you have right now and how can people find you if they're wanting to chat more?
Yeah, so the best place to find all the things is lauraura.com. It's LAURA.com. That's the hub for all things me. Couple of different ways. The Gutsy podcast. I mean, if you like my speaking style, if you like this type of messaging, that's a great next step is to subscribe to the Gutsy podcast. But beyond that, I have 2 ways that I primarily work with women. First is my mastermind called Auraline. So it's a 6-month program where I help women that are growing. They're at a pivot point. They're really coming back to themselves. They're ready to do the thing. They just need some guidance to do it and clarity along the way. Someone to help hold them accountable as they make the moves. It's a great place for them. And then I have a community for women called the Gutsy Collective. And that's a space where women they're coming back to themselves, maybe for the first time ever. They're building their confidence and they're testing out new skills in a safe place and they're learning how to trust themselves again. And they're gearing up for the moves that they're ready to make in their life. So all of that is at lauraura.com.
Oh my gosh, that sounds amazing. I love it. Okay, so we'll have that in the show notes as well. I have one last question for you that I like to ask. This is called the Full Heart Podcast because I believe when you fill your heart so full of love, it overflows. That's what helps other people to do the same. And that's how we heal the world, one full heart at a time. So what is filling your heart right now? What makes you feel love?
What is filling my heart right now? I love this question. My work is really filling my heart right now. Not that everything is centered around work, but like, again, I've put in a lot of reps and a lot of time to find what works really well. You know, there was a probably 1.5 years, almost 2-year period where like I didn't really know what I wanted to do with this business or what worked well. And I launched a bunch of shit that just never took off. And I have finally found my things between speaking on stage, helping women in Auraline, and supporting the women inside of the Gutsy Collective. Like that work is really filling my heart. I get off my calls. Sometimes I don't even get off the call and I'm just sobbing because I see these women come back online. I see them believe in themselves again. We celebrate together as they make moves. Like you can just feel the energy shift. And I get off the call and I'm so overflowing that I'm like, I just want to keep doing this. And then I pour it into the podcast and I pour it into TikTok videos that I make, and there's just so much to give. And so that's why I say my work really is pouring into my heart right now. It's just rewarding and I love it.
That is amazing. And what a gift. I love it.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Laura. Thank you for sharing your story and being vulnerable with us. It was really inspiring to me. And I already feel like I'm ready to make some gutsy moves just from talking to you.
Yes. I have that effect on people, I hear.
I just appreciate you so much. Thank you.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.